Hi, I'm Scott Hanselman.
And I'm Maria Naggaga.
And this is Microsoft Virtual Academy. Now, we've done a couple of these, so you may have seen our faces before. We did an introduction,
Yeah,
but we used Windows.
completely on Windows.
That introduction to .NET Core and ASP.NET Core is available. It was a full day of training, and you're welcome to check that out. We also did an intermediate day, got a little bit more advanced, kind of 200-level content. This day, though, kind of stands alone. So if you've seen the introduction day, there may be some repeats here. This is going to talk about .NET Core and ASP.NET Core, except we're going to do it from the perspective of Linux and Mac. This is effectively non-Windows Day.
So it's just showing the world that you can do a .NET application anywhere.
Well, and not just showing the world that we can do it anywhere, but that it's totally fine. You're on a Mac,
Yeah.
and you've got Visual Studio Code. I have a Surface Book here, but I'm using Ubuntu. So I'll be doing Linux, you'll be doing a Mac. And while I may browse occasionally in Windows, we're not going to be doing any development at all in Windows today.
Okay.
We're going to do Hello World, we're going to do ASP.NET, we're going to walk through those concepts, and then we're going to get into some very interesting Linux-specific stuff. How to host a .NET application on Linux, how to publish ASP.NET to a $5 host, how to publish it to Azure.
Yeah.
But also Docker and containers and how that world works and the relationships between .NET Core and other languages. That is the goal of today, so let's get started.
Let's get started.
So where do I go to install .NET? Because I've got my Ubuntu machine here. If we take a look on this machine and I type .NET, .NET doesn't come with
It doesn't
Linux.
exist. Like, Ubuntu has no idea what that is.
Nope. And it didn't even suggest, it didn't even give me a helpful suggestion.
No, because it's like, what's this?
So how do we start?
So the first place to go is .NET.
Okay, so .NET, that is a vanity URL. It's okay to be vain if you have a really cool URL,
It's a pretty sweet one.
.NET, dot.net.
Yeah, you
That's
got
going
it.
to end up taking you over here to Microsoft.com, though. Okay? And it says any developer, any app, any platform. We've got Windows development on the left. That's the .NET Full Framework, right? We've got mobile apps on the right. That's Xamarin and Mono.
Okay.
But what we're focusing on today is cross-platform server apps. So that's .NET Core and ASP.NET Core.
So we're going to go over there and look at our download options.
Yep, that's a great point. We have download .NET Core, but if you notice when we get there, we've got a bunch of choices, and don't forget to notice this other downloads. Let's make sure that we follow up on that as well.
All right.
So I'm on a Windows machine browsing, but if I were on a Mac, it would have detected that and dropped me to the Mac instructions, and if I were on Linux, it would have dropped me to the Linux instructions as well. So you're going to get the right instructions based on the user agent of your browser when you hit .NET. Okay? Now, other downloads will take you down to this kind of scary table, but I want you to know it's here.
Okay.
We're going to be doing .NET development. We're not going to be doing the runtime deployment or server hosting, so we'll install always the SDK.
All right, but what are those other options?
So .NET Core Installer is not the tools to build, just the tools to run.
Okay.
All right? And then if you're really sophisticated, you can go and get the binaries for the SDK just as a zip file, or just the binaries for the .NET Core. But those are advanced techniques. We just want you to be aware that they're there. You really probably don't want to spend your time here. You want to be at the friendly instructions.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to be using Ubuntu on my machine, but it's worth pointing out that we have a baker's dozen worth of Linuxes, or at least a lot. And if you, for example, you go to RHEL, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, their instructions are different. They don't have apt-get, they have yum. So you say yummy.net, and that gets it installed on Red Hat. So each Linux flavor has its own style of installation.
So they're all different.
They're all different. They really are. Some of them use scripts. Some of them use yum. Some use apt-get. And within them, there are versions as well. So for example, if I'm going to be using Ubuntu or Linux Mint, notice this. There's Ubuntu 14.04, also known as Trusty.
That's a great name.
They have really great code names. And then Ubuntu 16.04, which I believe is pronounced genial. And that has different instructions. So you're going to want to make sure that you don't paste the wrong ones in, or you could mess up your machine a little bit.
So how would you know which one's the right one for you?
That is a great question. So let's go back over to my Ubuntu machine, and I'm going to type lsb release-a. and that's going to tell me the version and the code name of my Ubuntu. I am on 16.04, which actually translates to the long-term support April 2016.
No, oh, so that's a date?
Yeah, so Ubuntu has long-term support every year or so, and then they've got the fast ring. So just like we have Windows with the insiders fast and insiders slow, this is the reliable Ubuntu that I can use for years and get support on that came out in April.
Okay.
All right. So I know that I have 16.04, so I'm going to need to do a couple of things before I install .NET.
All right.
This part here adds the feed for .NET into apt-get. So Ubuntu, by default, doesn't know about .NET, and it doesn't even know where to go get it.
So you have to tell it.
We have to tell it, and we're going to tell it by making a new list file that's going to have a list for the location of our apt-get. I'm going to say echo. I'm going to put this string that we're on x64, and then here is our Azure URL, and we're doing things on Genial, and then redirect that and put it into sources.list. So we'll do that first. Now notice it says sudo in front of that. We're going to be super user, but if we go back over to our Linux machine, I'm running as Scott. So we'll be sure to not run as root. That would be poor form. All right. I'm going to paste that in. Yep, that's comforting. All right, that should have worked. It's kind of anticlimactic.
So if you don't see anything, don't panic.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm panicking. But what I'll do is I'll just ls and make sure that that file got created.
Okay, and it
see
did.
that it did.
It did.
Yeah, but there's always a moment there where if it doesn't give you like, you're a good person, then sometimes you worry.
You worry.
Yeah. I would prefer an operating system to just tell me after each command, you're a good person. All right, next one here, we're going to go and get the key, the GPG key from this traffic manager, and basically say we trust this. We're basically saying that we trust this this URL, and it's a safe place for packages. And you can confirm that it's Microsoft Open Technologies that published this.
Oh yeah, it even gives you an email that you can go.
Right, you can go and send your hate mail to. All right. Now we call sudo apt-get update to go and update the catalog.
So when you say updating the catalog, what do you mean?
So the sources file, this list file that we added to sources.list.d, says, hey, there's new packages for you to know about. They're over here.
Okay.
It didn't say go and get the updated list. So it's like a new restaurant opened in town. The update says go there and check it out and get the menu.
All right.
So here it's going to go, there it is, and talk to Traffic Manager and go and get that information. This is the Linux, I'm running this at Linode. This is us, and right now it's going off and getting that catalog.
Okay.
So now I've got the .NET location of our apt packages. We're going to install the SDK. Now here is the actual command that installs the .NET SDK. I have a dream that one day I will type sudo apt install .NET.
And it'll just know which one to pick.
Well, because I feel like you go and say sudo apt install Python or Ruby, and it just kind of works.
Yeah.
But right now, we have some tooling that is in preview, and the version numbers are changing. So it's worth pointing out, if you are watching this in the future, maybe these numbers changed.
All right. So where would they go to make sure that they're using the right one?
That's a good question. A couple of places. First, if you're just going to be doing basic development, you're going to get started, you want to know what the mainline supported version is, .NET. Okay. So we're on that page. If you're here and there's a different number there, a newer or a higher number, that is the supported version. But it's open source. So we might want to go to github/.net, where we can see all the code for .NET. And we're using specifically the CLI, or the command line interface. And that kind of installs all the SDK tools, and it's a piece of tooling. And if we scroll down, we can see the status of the build. And there's this great table here. And the table is very useful. It tells you all the different versions of the newer stuff. So these are daily builds or CI, or continuous integration builds. But this is another good reminder. Check this out here. Remember that there's two flavors, right? We talked about this. There's the runtime, and then there's the framework, and then that's different from the runtime and the framework plus the tools. So we've got all these options, and it's a little overwhelming.
Yeah, that's a lot of options.
What would you install?
So we would be using the one in the middle.
The SDK installer, because we're going to be developers, and we want
the second one.
Yep, we want the tools and the runtime and framework. But if you're super fancy and you're advanced, you can do it like that.
Oh, so that's where I should be.
You are fancy and advanced. Well, remember that when we have our options, Windows, Linux, Mac, it says other downloads here. There's all of these options as well. So this is a list of the latest information, the latest binaries. Most people, to be clear, most people just want the SDK installer.
All right.
If you're a developer.
You want to stay there.
And if you're going to be maybe just putting in the runtime on, you could just use the .NET Core installer. But it would be very unusual for you to need the binaries.
Okay.
All right. So let's go back. And we're now going to apt-get install .NET on this machine. So here's our Ubuntu box. And just to confirm, when I type .NET, it doesn't exist.
Okay.
Doesn't know. And now we're going to go and install it. And it's going to build this dependency tree, and it's going to say the following packages will be installed. And we get the hosting framework, shared framework, and all this stuff. And it's going to tell me it'll be about 100 and something megs, which isn't bad.
Not bad at all.
I mean, I guess I would think it would be gigabytes, but .NET Core is very small and very efficient.
Because it's all about what you need.
Right. You're not going to download any more than you need. And when we talk a little bit more about packages and package restoring, you'll just bring in the libraries that you want, as opposed to bringing in a big monolithic pile of libraries and using up lots of space.
Yeah.
So we'll say yes. It's going to bring this down and set it up for us. And it does give you a warning. Just be aware that it says it may collect information about your use of the software and send it to Microsoft. That basically is telemetry. It's not that big of a deal. It's all open source, so you can actually go see what gets sent. But it's things like what kind of computer you are, but not your computer name.
Okay.
Are you on 64-bit? Are you on 32-bit? Are you on Linux or not? But you can easily turn those off with a environment variable. So feel free to visit this URL if you want to turn that telemetry off. But it is anonymous telemetry, which is real common. So I'll type .NET.
And there it is.
There it is. And actually what I'm going to do is type .NET and pipe it through more so we can see the .NET Core framework host, the thing that hosts the framework. We've got the version and the build number, and then we've got help. Just like most command line applications, I can say -- help. And there's our common commands.
So just to be clear, these are the common commands, but they're not the only commands.
Right. There might be other commands. There are also subcommands within common commands. Some of these commands, like publish and pack, can get pretty sophisticated with long argument lists and things like that. But these are the basics that we're going to be using for our stuff, creating a project, getting the packages for a project, and running a project.
Okay.
And in the future, a little bit later today, we will publish them for deployment and send it up to Azure maybe. Or if you want to go back and look at the introduction, we also did a packing. We did Maria Library.
Yeah, we did the Maria Library, which we could have pushed up to NuGet.
Right. .NET libraries get packed up into a NuGet package and then hosted at NuGet.org. So you can very easily do that as well. All of that's being done with that .NET command line. And if I type which.NET, you can see the location that it's installed, just to be sure it's installed globally so that everyone can use .NET on this machine.
Yeah, because we had a scenario where I had a bunch of everything everywhere, and we couldn't get it working.
Right. On your Mac, we were trying to update Node and NPM, and sometimes you can have local installations versus global installations, and things get messy. If you do get yourself in a messy situation with perhaps maybe like an early build of .NET or an older build of .NET, you can clean up. There's, in fact, a script that will remove previous versions of .NET Core that's available up at .NET. That is kind of the nuclear option.
It's a nuclear.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. This is really for people who maybe were running daily builds, because this is open source software. There were a lot of betas and a lot of early things, but currently this is released, and if you just follow the instructions on .NET, you should be fine.
You should be fine? Okay.
Okay. So let's go back over here, and why don't you help me make a Hello World application.
Okay.
Looks like we're in Home Scott.
You're in Home Scott, so let's make a new folder.
Okay.
Right?
Yep, the classic.
the perfect name.
Yeah, hello world. It looks like we have an empty.
It's completely empty.
folder.
Nothing's in there.
Nope, nothing's in there.
Okay, good. So let's give the .NET commands a try. So .NET New is one of the commands.
All right. And in fact, I can say -- help, I guess.
So you've created your folder.
Mm-hmm.
So let's create a brand new .NET application.
Okay, and folder is empty.
Completely.
Type .NET
New.
New, and I'll actually go -- help because remember we can see if there's sub things within them. Oh, and look, so this is the first time that I've run .NET, so it is doing a little bit of local caching. This happens just one time, okay? It's setting up my local package cache, and then here's that reminder about the telemetry. I just have to set .NET CLI telemetry environment variable if I'm not interested in sending anonymous information up to Microsoft. And look, .NET New has some options like language, C# or F#, and the type of project that you'll show me later.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know you could do that.
All right, so .NET.
So we want to restore our packages.
Well, we have to make our project first.
Oh, yeah.
.NET New. So it looks like you get C# by default, and it looks like you get kind of nothing. You get a little C# program. Let's see what's inside there. Pretty sophisticated stuff.
Very sophisticated stuff.
And then we got a project.json. So inside of project.json, what's going on here?
So what are so those are all your dependencies.
Right. So we have, in this case, no third-party dependencies, but we are dependent on the .NET Core application platform, .NET Core app. We're making an app, not a library. We can see our version number here. And we can also see that we're going to emit an entry point. That's a fancy way of saying we're an app, not a library, right? We're going to have a main, so we need the compiler to emit or create an entry point.
Yeah, so it knows the starting point of where to go?
Right. So in this case, if we go back here, where's my program.cs? Oh, CD. Look at me. There we go. Public static void main. That's the entry point into our app. Okay. Now, can I just run this? Will it just work if I just go run?
Probably not.
The current project is not valid.
And you can see there's the new 109.
1009. There's an error here saying expected lock file doesn't exist. We don't know what a lock file is yet. We haven't learned it.
We have no idea.
But as you were going to tell me before, I have to run .NET restore to get that back.
Yeah, so you could have trusted me.
I could have trusted you. I shouldn't have said .NET run without doing .NET restore. So I did .NET new, .NET restore.
So let's have a look at what's coming in.
All right. So it says writing lock file to disk, and it put a new file. It's not a project.json. It's a project.lock.json. And it was pretty quick. It didn't actually go off and do anything. That makes me feel like the libraries that we needed were already here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So let's go and see what's going on now. We've got our little program.cs and our little tiny project.json, and then our giant project.lock.json.
Can we have a look at what's in there?
We can, but it's going to fill the screen and be scary. I'm happy to do that for you.
Scary times.
What this is something you don't have to worry about. It gets generated automatically. But basically, it's a big catalog or a bill of lading. It's a big manifest that has all of the different dependencies that we would need, all the way down to the native libraries. So it knows that we are on Ubuntu, and it knows that we need a .NET Core app. If we were to go and add something like, I don't know, regular expression library or JSON library, it would need to go and recalculate our dependencies and any dependencies in that tree. Okay. So for the computer science people, it's the transitive closure across that complete dependency tree. But for regular people, it's something that you need.
Okay, something, and they don't need to worry about it.
Well, if it's, you always have to update with .NET Restore if you change packages.
Yeah.
We'll see that a little bit later when we make a web app. And if things are acting weird, you can certainly delete it and generate it again.
Okay.
All right, so we did .NET New, we did .NET Restore.
So we want to run our application.
.NET Run. Project Hello World will be compiled because expected outputs are missing. Makes sense?
Okay.
The outputs being our application binaries. And then there's Hello World right there.
Right there.
We also have a bin folder and an obj folder. Let's just run real quick down into bin. There's our Hello World. Notice that it's hello world.dll in this case. It's not .exe. It's, in fact, .NET this is the thing that runs that. So this is the host. Remember when we said .NET -- help?
Yeah.
And it said it's the .NET command line tools, and we said .NET more. The .NET Core shared framework host. It's going to host our application or hold our application. So it's the thing that runs. And this is real familiar, right? If you're a Python person, actually.
Yep.
Python something, or Ruby something, or Java something.
So it's like doing the same thing, yeah.
Yep, it's the thing that runs and hosts our application. All right, so that's pretty cool. Why don't we see if we can do something more on a Mac? Because at this point, other than opening up VI or Emacs and then not being able to close it ever, because there's not much that I can do at this point. All right, you want to switch over to your Mac?
Yeah, let's switch over to my Mac.
All right, so let's switch over to Maria's Mac.
Which conveniently has your name.
Right, well, you borrowed it.
I borrowed your Mac.
It's all good.
So we're going to go through the same process. So let's see how good your memory is. Do you want to walk me through it?
Okay, so let's make a folder.
Okay. Scott.
All right, let's go in there.
Okay.
And then let's put .NET -- version for me once you get in there. Go ahead, go in there first. And just make sure we've got the same .NET. And you're on a Mac, which is feels a little Unixy, because there's a flavor there. Darwin underneath there. There's the version. Try running .NET -- info.
Okay.
For a little bit more information. It's kind of like detailed version. This is a useful thing because it tells you your runtime environment. It tells you, there you go, your platform there, which is Darwin. And then your RID, which is this runtime ID. When we get into some advanced .NET topics, right there at the bottom it says OSX 10.11-x64. You need to know that when you go and you package up your application, because I could even build on my Linux machine and give it to you on your Mac, or build on a Windows machine and give it to you on your Mac, and it will run.
No worries at all. No problem.
If I know the runtime ID and I've told it ahead of time, that way I can include the runtime that the Mac person needs. So I could make a portable .NET.
Okay.
And it would run even if you didn't have .NET installed.
Oh, so even if I did not have .NET installed.
Well,
and you gave
so there's the shared framework, which is installed on the machine in the global sense.
Yeah.
Right, when you type .NET, actually type which .NET. See, that's in user local share .NET. On mine, it is in user bin.net. On Windows, it's in program files.net. That's installed machine-wide.
Okay.
But I might want to be able to write a .NET application and give it to someone and have it work even if they didn't have .NET installed.
So if they went to which .NET, it would be like, what .NET?
Exactly. They would end up having a bigger folder that would probably be like 100 megs because it would include everything that they need. But I could give it to you on a USB key and it would just work.
Just like, here you go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Cool. So let's go and do new and restore then. So
Okay.
.NET new. .NET restore, that's cool.
So, okay.
Same thing.
So
same
it looks
project
very
system.
similar. It doesn't seem like I'm doing something different at all.
Well, that's an interesting question. Why don't we try, so type cat project.lock.json.
Okay, project.lock. The pressure.
Or I hit tab. And then pipe.
Oh, pipe.
Because
Okay.
it's so big. Look how it just flew
It
by,
was
right?
huge.
Yeah, it is big.
Okay.
So go ahead and pipe that through more.
And then more.
Yeah, because the project.json is only like 300 bytes, but project.lock.json is the complete list. So just keep it. Oh, there we go, right there. See, it says runtime targets.
Okay.
Yours is different. See, it says RID OSX, runtimes for OSX. Your project.lock.json is going to be different from mine because it has information about what it's going to take to run successfully on your Mac.
On my particular machine.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I couldn't take your files as they are at this moment,
Okay.
copy them to Linux and run them. I would need to go .NET restore, make sure I have the right stuff, and then I could run. Or I'd have to go to project.json and tell it that I want it to run everywhere and package it all up.
So I would add it in my project.json file.
Yeah, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But the point is, .NET new, .NET restore, .NET run. So if you were going to give me your code, I would just bring it down. Maybe I would clone it from Git, and I'd say .NET restore, and it would just work.
Okay.
All right, so go ahead and hit Q and get out of there.
All right.
All right, so maybe we can make this a little bit more advanced because Hello World is only so fun for so long.
Did we run Hello World yet?
Has it run? Did we prove that it works?
No, we did restore.
All right,
let's
let's
prove
do
that
that.
it runs.
Okay.
Let's Let's make sure the public at home feels happy.
Because it would be bad to get 20 minutes into it and have everyone go to liar.
That we lied to them.
Yes, it's all lies. It turns out .NET's just all batch files.
Okay.
All right, so it worked.
It worked.
Okay, cool. Let's go and maybe advance that a little bit and make it Hello World on the web.
Okay, so I am going to open this up in code.
Visual Studio Code.
Visual Studio Code.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, you do have it open.
I do have it in my path, too. So go ahead and make that big and then use some...
There we go.
Yeah, make that full screen for me, and let's take a look at that error. Okay, what's it say here? Required assets to build are missing from your project. Now, before you hit yes, I want you to hover over yes. So she's going to get ready to push yes. People at home, watch to the left where it says Scott and bin. So go ahead and click yes, and let's watch that. See how VS Code just appeared? A folder there on the left just popped in. That's a support folder. It's not .NET specific.
Okay.
It's VS Code specific.
It's VS Code specific. What is in here?
Let's check it out. All right, so launch.json, let's look in there. That is, again, not specific to .NET Core. That is telling Visual Studio Code, go ahead and move your there you go. That's telling Visual Studio Code how to launch this console app. And if you look right there, it says program on line 9.
Yeah.
It says bin, debug, core. Maybe you can scroll a little bit to the side there. Scott DLL. That, remember how when we did our .NET run and we went down into bin on my Linux machine, there's that file that got built. That's the expected outputs. That's the compilation results right there. So it's going to go and not say .NET run. It's actually going to say .NET and the full path to the DLL.
So this.
That's another way that you can run an application, is give it the full path to the DLL.
Oh, that's fancy.
Okay. So that is how to do that. And if you scroll down just a smidge, it says .NET Core attach. That is for debugging. So we'll take a look at that in a minute as well. Let's go to our program.cs there. And can you do debugging? Can you breakpoint here maybe?
I think you can because we have the debug tools.
So let's check it out. Let's put a breakpoint on line 9.
All right.
A little bit to the left. Left.
Oh,
your other left.
My other left.
That one.
Yeah, there we go.
All right.
I have no sense of direction.
That's all right. So you see the little bug in the international no symbol on the left there, right? Our debugger menu.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So click on that.
Okay.
And, oh, sorry, that opened that up. My bad. I apologize. Use the splitter bar and expand it a little bit. Because we're at such a low resolution, I want to make sure that people can see that.
Ooh.
There you go. See it says .NET Core Launch. Pull that down real quick. See it says .NET Core Launch Console and .NET Core Attach. Do me a favor and go back over to that VS Code launch.json. So back to your files.
Okay.
And let's look at launch.json. And scroll up to the top there. See it says .NET Core Launch. Change that name there, right on line 5.
Okay.
Name, call it something else.
So I just named this completely
just say
something.
Fancy, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Right here?
Yeah, but I want you to do it before you do that. Click on the debug button so that we can see both launch.json and that drop down at the same time. There you go.
Okay.
So change something in line 5 there. Something in the value.
All right, there we go. And I could change it to anything. So
yeah.
Fancy Maria.
Fancy Maria, .NET Core Fancy Maria. And then go ahead and save that.
Okay. Save.
Look at the drop down now. Pull that down.
Ooh, fancy. So, oh, that's nice.
Now, this is important. Let's go ahead and, there you go. Pull that down.
Okay.
This is important, and it sounds like a silly little demo, but it's a reminder that there are no black boxes. There's no secrets anymore, right? You edited a text file that described a particular configuration. Now, yes, it was automatically generated, but that thing is totally under your control.
So by doing this, I'm not breaking anything.
No, you just changed a name to make a different configuration name. Visual Studio Visual Studio Code doesn't care if it's called .NET Core Console. That's just what they generated. But it also is a reminder that you could then copy that whole block, make a different launch. You could make it so you launch tests, or you could have it launch a different task. It doesn't even have to launch .NET. It's totally up to you. Visual Studio Code is a totally extensible cross-platform code editor. And it's always nice to kind of remind people that these little text files and these little configuration files, they're not sacrosanct. They're not something that you can't play with and maybe break.
Okay.
And then, undo and revert and try something else. Totally fine.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and go back to our program.cs.
All right, we're heading back.
Okay, so you've got a breakpoint. Go ahead and run this application.
All right, so I'm going to head right back.
Oops.
There we go.
No, you're going to want to debug it, actually, rather.
Oh, yeah, so I'm going to run it right here.
Now, in the output window there, I see that. I recognize that was previously compiled, and it goes and says .NET Run. It loads a bunch of symbols, and boom, there you are. So and you even got locals there on the left.
Okay, right here.
Yep. So you've got watches, you've got breakpoints, you've got a call stack. You are doing interactive debugging on a Mac. There's been no Windows involved, no Visual Studio, big Windows version. It's funny actually because Visual Studio Code is written in TypeScript.
Oh yeah.
Right. It is a JavaScript editor, but it's using the CLR and talking to the CLR. And I think you can even hover over args on the right-hand side there on line 7. You hover over that. So you've got little tooltips for stuff. Let's go ahead and stop this and see if we have IntelliSense as well.
Okay. So that's something I've noticed. Like, I had never used this before.
You're more of a got here debugger person.
Yeah, like where is it? Yeah. Okay.
Well, again, depending on the language you came from, like you told me that you were a Python and JavaScript person. Everyone debugs differently. Let's go ahead and click the little bug there on the left to hide the
debugger?
Yeah, that whole thing. And let's put a new line after line 10 and maybe type something else like console dot whatever.
Okay, so let's see. Oh, there you see.
Console dot, yeah, look at that. So you actually get a little bit of help there, see? We're getting that help, and we're talking to .NET, and this isn't autocomplete, it is IntelliSense. It's literally looking at the type of the object and giving you that autocomplete list. So if you type in like read line,
okay,
see, it's auto-completing for you. There you go. And just open and close the braces there. And then do me a favor, just to make a point about autocomplete versus IntelliSense, hit enter a couple of times. And give me a var I equals quote Maria.
Var I equals me.
Yeah, and then some colon, and then go and say I dot and the next line there, and what do we see? And you didn't save this, right? You didn't.
I didn't save anything.
You were typing kind of fast, but you didn't hit, what is it, Command S, did you?
No, I did not.
Okay, so you're still in and they call it dirty file. You haven't saved it. We haven't compiled it.
That's a thing?
Yeah, a dirty file.
Yeah.
You see the little dot at the top next to CS? That's indicating that program.cs is dirty. Hit Command S.
Okay.
And that dot will disappear, indicating that the file's been saved.
Okay.
So the point I was making, though, is that you were getting real-time, runtime autocomplete or IntelliSense based on that. And these look like string-related stuff, index of and contains. Those are stringy things. Stringy things. Change quote Maria to just a number.
Okay.
So leave the I dot and change Maria to just a number, not inside of a quote.
Okay. Let's change it to your age.
Nice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I dot.
Okay. There we go.
Look, it actually says int I too. So now go ahead and hit backspace. Backspace again, hit I. Yeah, see it says int I?
Yeah.
You're getting inty things. And again, we are using what's called Roslyn. It's the open source C# compiler, and it's always thinking in the background about this code. So Visual Studio Code is not just a cool text editor.
So it's not just you're writing a bunch of text, it's actually giving you some deep dive functionality.
It's thinking about stuff.
For you.
And actually, I just realized, look at that if. See the if has a little wrench by it?
Yes.
Hit F and then tab.
F and then tab.
So if.
If.
F, tab, tab. Oh, try it again, actually. Maybe this is me making a mistake. Back, IF.
Tab.
Try Control dot.
Okay.
I'm not sure on Visual Studio Code. Space.
Space, Control dot.
Yeah, you see there's that moment there. I'm not catching that moment. I don't know how to do snippets on this thing. Enter?
Okay.
Maybe it's enter.
You mean the light bulb?
Yeah, click on the light bulb there.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember the... Oh, I was hoping it would do a snippet. Make method signatures. That's actually giving you an interesting thing, separate from snippets, which we'll talk about. See how it's giving you things like remove unnecessary usings, and things like that? It'll actually do analysis not just on a single line, but on the entire page. It'll remove usings. You can do extract method. It's building up into quite the code editor. It's nice.
So it has the feel of Visual Studio, like the IntelliSense, the light bulb, but not with all the extra stuff.
Right. It's very lightweight and very clean. Actually, maybe not try if. Let's try 4.
Okay.
Let's back up. Maybe 4 has a snippet.
Okay, let's have a look.
All right, I'm not sure why the snippet's not there. I see the little wrench.
I actually think that it's a little square with the dots at the bottom.
Yeah, Visual Studio Code is different than
So if I do that and I hit enter, I
there
get
you go.
that.
That's what I wanted. So you get a snippet there.
So it's like a snippet of code that I'm ready to use.
So you've got your basic snippets, and you can also write custom snippets. So just like we did that launch .tasks, you can go and edit all sorts of things. It's a totally configurable editor.
So the launch, I can do all that in the launch dot. Okay.
No, I'm sorry, not the launch.json, but I'm saying that as an example, launch.json lets you configure the debugger, tasks.json lets you make little tasks that you can run, but snippets and stuff, you can actually import snippets and other packages and stuff.
Okay.
All right, so let's go ahead and get rid of all that, and let's change our application into a hello world on the web.
Okay, let's do that.
Rather than hello world. Are you going to Control-Z your way to glory?
That's the way I do it.
Yeah.
I'm old school like that, but then I'll just do this.
All right.
I don't want to get rid of the curly brackets, or as you guys call the braces.
I call them curly braces. What do you all call them?
Brackets.
I think brackets are square.
No. Brackets are brackets. They just come in different shapes. English people, please help me out.
I will go ahead and take a lift to the flat, and we'll talk about that. All right, cool. So does this still compile though?
Should we give it a try?
Well, you can Command Shift. Was it Command Shift B?
Command Shift B. I trust you.
There you go. Just to go and confirm, this isn't running it, but rather just doing kind of spell check, right? We're going to
just making it's like a spell check.
Yeah,
okay.
It's compiling to make sure everything is cool.
Okay,
all right.
I'm just going to bring
so
this
let's
down.
make that smaller, and let's go over to our project.json. We're going to need to bring in a library for the first time.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay, so I'm in my project.json file, and let me just make this a little bit tinier.
There we go.
So it's easier for me to see the world. Okay.
Right. So we've got we're going to need a dependency there.
Okay.
And the dependency is going to be called Kestrel. We'll put it
there?
Yeah, right there. And Kestrel is the name. Oh, look at that. So you're getting IntelliSense right away.
I'm getting IntelliSense.
Yeah.
So
Kestrel is the name of the Microsoft cross-platform web server that's going to be generating our pages for us.
So I want to bring up the IntelliSense again. So that's a thing to notice.
Yeah. Microsoft.asp.net.server and see if it auto-suggests it. ASP.NET Core.server.
Core.
I think you need it in quotes.
I need it in quotes. I think I lost.
But you also need a comma after the. This is JSON. So on the previous line, on line 24.
Oh yeah, that was what I was getting the error for.
Comma.
Yes,
yep,
there we go. I was like, why is it orange? And then it's like.
Microsoft.asp.NET Core, ASP.NET Core .server.
.server.
.kestrel.
Kestrel. So let's give a bit of background. What is Kestrel?
So Kestrel is for the technically minded, it's based on libuv, which is the same HTTP stack, the native HTTP cross-platform stack that's used with Node.
Okay.
And Kestrel is just the name of our little web server.
Okay, because I think Kestrel is also a tiny little bird.
I think it is a tiny bird, exactly. Now, Kestrel is not a replacement for IIS or Apache or Nginx, but it is the thing that generates the pages. So when we go and run our application and it makes HTML and talks HTTP, it'll do that. A little later in the day, we'll bring in Glenn, our expert, and we will hook Kestrel up to like Apache or Nginx. So then the web server that's going to be listening on the external port will be like a known web server, while Kestrel is kind of our little internal generator. And then we'll talk about the difference between an edge server and a non-edge server.
It sounds very Neil deGrasse Tyson right there.
Yeah, it's not too advanced, but Linux is a world of little applications that have single responsibilities. So while Microsoft people are used to like IIS doing everything for you automatically, and there's a GUI, with Linux you have to go and have an app to run the web server and an app to keep this, the .NET running, and what happens if Kestrel goes away, who brings it back. So it's a bunch of little apps as opposed to one app that does it all.
So everyone has a responsibility.
Everyone has a responsibility.
Perfect.
All right.
So I've seen a couple of options.
Yep, let's bring in the latest one, 101.
Okay.
Okay, and that looks cool.
It looks good. So
I'm not sure if the, we'll find out when we do the restore if it's case sensitive or not. I don't know.
Oh, what's case? Oh, because I have a small.
Well, like capital S server, capital K Kestrel, and capital C core. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out when it has an error or not. Okay. Let's do this. I'll give you a little trick. Hit Control and then tilde, the little Spanish character that goes over the N.
Oh, so Command and then tilde for me.
Tilde. Is it Command tilde or is it Control tilde? There you go. It pops up a terminal inside of the editor. So this is nice for being able to avoid jumping back and forth.
And this is wow, that's pretty amazing.
It is cool. It's actually HTML and it's talking to a real terminal instance. But go ahead and drag that up a little bit so we can see a little bit more. And let's run our we can run our .NET restore in there if you want to. But rather than doing that, remember we talked about dirty files. Go ahead and just save project.json.
Okay. Oh.
Because we're now in a code editor,
we're
going to get a little bit more help. So it's saying restore. Let's go ahead and just click restore. Cool. I guess it worked.
So it did work.
I guess it's not case sensitive.
Okay.
Didn't know that.
But still, you should have them in caps if you can.
It depends on how uptight you are as a programmer. I don't mind.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. All right.
Okay.
Let's go check out our. So did that suddenly make Hello World console.writeline a web app?
Maybe.
No. No, it didn't. You know it didn't.
I know it didn't. I know.
All right. Let's go to program.cs and change that up a little bit.
So I'm presuming that we need to add
Actually, I'll give you a little tip.
Okay.
You see how on the left-hand side, there's on the very upper left corner, the two files in our on our left-hand side toolbar there.
Okay.
You can just click on those two files on the far left.
Far left over here?
Yeah, just click on those.
Okay.
Click it. That'll open and close that pane.
Oh, okay.
That way you don't have to keep moving it back and forth. Okay, so here we've got, let's scroll up a bit. What's the name of our class? I think we called it Scott? No, program.
Program.
Okay, public class program, public static void main. We're still going to need that main, but we're going to want to bring in some other stuff. So we just added Kestrel. We're going to need to bring in Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.hosting. So we're going to add a using statement at the top there.
So will I get some sort of IntelliSense here?
Indeed you are. Yeah, and you can even tab to complete.
Can tab, oh, that's your thing, right? So I can do that?
Yeah.
Tab?
Yep.
Dot.
H.
Okay. Is it hosting?
Yep. Tab. Boom. Yeah. And then a semicolon and you're set. All right. Okay. So that's going to make something available to us. Now, right now in main on line 11, we're saying console.writeline. We're going to go ahead and just toss that.
Okay. So that's
we're
going
not
away.
going to talk to the console anymore. We're going to do something different.
It's nice knowing you.
Yep. All right. We're going to go and say var host. We need something to host our application.
Okay.
It's going to host our web app, and it's going to hold it and then listen to HTTP on a certain port. We're going to make a new web host builder.
So new web host.
Oh, look at that. A builder for an iWeb host.
So this kind of reminds me of the little snippets you get in Visual Studio that tells you a little bit about what's happening.
And then you can actually, I think, try clicking on that information symbol over there and see what happens. Right, so if it had additional information, it would pop that tooltip up, and I think maybe that'll point to in the future web-based help.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good to know.
So let's go and do web host builder, and then open and close parentheses, dot, and we're going to start doing this what's called a fluent interface. We're going to go use this, dot, use that, dot, use this,
that
and
like
it builds
a
it out.
nice long line?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it might fill up your line, and we'll talk about why that may or may not be a good idea. So type use.
Okay.
We've got use this and use that and use.
So what are we using?
Well, what do you think there?
Kestrel.
Excellent. So we use Kestrel. We just brought in, open and close parentheses, and then dot. And then this is an interesting thing. We're going to have a startup class. We could do it here in line, but we're going to make a new class in a minute called startup.
Okay.
That'll handle this. So for now, it's not going to exist, and we might get an error, but type use startup.
Use. Okay.
And then of type. Actually, of type. and then we'll say the type is startup, and that's going to be the thing that doesn't yet exist.
Okay, so that one is yet to come.
Yet to come. And then open and close braces at the very end there, or parentheses, and then dot build.
Dot build.
So the web host builder has this sentence that gets built up, and you can fill it up, and then open and close braces, and then a semicolon. Build is going to be a method.
Okay.
Now, that is hard to look at for me.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So put an enter before each of those dots.
Okay.
This is kind of the convention, and then tab it in a little bit. And then you can stack those up as much as you like.
This looks a lot easier to read.
It is nicer. And then most people just indent those last 3 lines.
Okay, I will do that. So I think there's a way I can just do...
Yep, and then tab, excellent. So then at the new line, and then host.run, that's going to run our host that we just built.
Will it show up as an option? There it is.
It should. There we go. All right. Now you'll notice, of course, as we pointed out, startup is not existing. What if you hover over that? What does it say? Yep. Not found.
Not found.
If you click on it, does Visual Studio Code try to help us at all? I'm curious.
And then do that. So it says...
Ooh.
Ooh.
Will it make a generate type? Try that.
All right.
I've never done this before.
So right there.
Let's see if it works. All right. Scroll down, maybe. Did it put it somewhere? Maybe look in your files. Did it make it somewhere?
So that's over here?
Yeah. Did it make a startup?
No.
Scroll up.
Did it put up there?
Oh, that kind of sucks. I thought it would make a new class.
You thought it would just do something like fancy?
I thought it would make a new startup. Go ahead and click on it again. Let's see.
Okay.
Try control period. That sometimes pops up.
Okay. Control.
It might be command period on a Mac.
There we go.
Extract method, generate type. I thought generate type would work, but it looks like it didn't. Let's go ahead and just put a class outside. You can try again, but I don't know if...
Let's see. No. Okay.
Okay. So go ahead and go outside of public class program, and we'll make public class
over
startup.
here?
Yeah.
Okay. So public...
Oh, there's your snippet. Hang on, back up.
Oh, okay. Did you see something cool?
This public, and then CLAS, and then there you go. Down, snippet, tab, or enter. Is it enter or tab? There you go.
Yay.
Start up.
Okay. And there it is.
All right.
It's noticing something. So,
oh, wait a second.
Did you notice that?
I'm wondering if it did make it somewhere. How did it know? Magic.
It's magic.
I don't know. There's some cool stuff inside of there. It knew maybe that you wanted to do that. Maybe it knew that you'd mentioned it before. I don't know.
Maybe it heard us?
It could have heard us speaking. So public class startup, and let's go ahead and go inside there and make a little room.
Okay.
Make it so we can see that whole class on the screen.
So let's just do this. There we go.
All right. So there on line 21, public class startup is going to have one method, and that's going to be called configure.
Okay.
And it doesn't do anything. It doesn't return anything, so it'll be public void configure.
So that's all it's going to do?
Yeah, public void configure. This is a convention. It's not actually, it's going to be capital C.
C.
It's not actually an interface. It's kind of an agreement with how Web Host Builder works. And it'll be, let's go ahead and open up configure with the parentheses.
Oh, okay.
The braces bracket thing is going to cause us problems.
No, it's going to cause us certain...
It's an international incident.
It's an international...
Open parentheses.
Close, and there we go.
And then inside there, let's put an I application builder.
So what are we...
This is not going to get IntelliSense.
Okay.
So why is it not giving you IntelliSense?
Do we not have the necessary namespace?
We don't have the necessary namespace. So let's scroll back up to the top, in fact.
Okay.
So we don't have to type that. We're going to bring in a couple more things. Hosting brought in Web Host Builder. Let's go ahead and bring in Microsoft dot,
Okay.
Dot. You can go ahead and, hit tab. Dot builder tab. Okay. And then do using Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.
So we're using another...
You can actually type US tab, MI.
Oh, hold
tab,
on. Tab.
Dot AS tab. Yeah, you got tab right there. Tab hosting. Tab. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, no, hosting. We have hosting.
Oh, we have hosting right? Then HTTP, pardon me.
Okay.
All right, cool. So now go back down.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
And try to start typing iApplication Builder
again. Okay.
And see if it gives you some
IntelliSense. Okay. So where we go? There we go.
Excellent. So we're going to have our iApplication Builder that gets passed into configure. It's going to be called app.
So it's just going to be called app.
Yep, APP. So then open that up with some curly braces for me for a new function here.
Curly
and
brackets.
put them on different spaces.
Oh, yeah.
There's a whole controversy about, where your curly braces go. Are you one of the people that puts it on the...
Yes, I am.
Oh, it's a JavaScript thing. Scandalous. All right. App.run.
App.run. And what are we telling it to do?
So this is going to be, for the time being, just the little piece of code that will run our app. It's not really sophisticated. When we're done with this and we get Hello World working, you should probably go and refer to some of the longer videos. If you look at the introductory video, when we get a little bit more advanced, we add MVC and MVC Core. Then we spend a whole day in the intermediate video getting into all the details. While we did that on Windows, it all applies.
Okay.
So to be clear, while this MVA, this Virtual Academy, is self-contained, and you can watch this and enjoy it, be sure to explore some of the deeper topics that do apply in the other two MVAs. For this here, we're just going to have run and a little piece of code that says hello world or whatever. So app run. Now this can get a little bit confusing because app run doesn't work like that exactly. So it feels like it ought to.
Yeah.
But in fact, we need to pass in this lambda that says, here's a piece of code. So let's yank hello world out of there.
Bye. Okay.
And then just hit enter a couple of times.
So when I hit enter a couple of times,
yep, and give me some space. All right, excellent. So after app run, type in context.
Okay.
And that's that can be C or whatever. We're just naming it context. Okay. It's just a variable. And then space. And then what I like to call it the Anders operator. It's the hash rocket, or it's equal sign and then greater than.
Ah.
It's the arrow that points to stuff. Okay? And it is within that thing that the arrow points to where our code is going to appear. So let's open a curly brace.
Okay.
And yeah, so then take that and give me a little space inside there. Excellent.
And you want it like that?
Yep, that doesn't matter. That's fine. And then let's go and say return, because every time it calls it, it's going to return something, and it's going to say context.
Okay, there we go.
And look at that, right? Go back.
All right.
CO, I want you to type context, and I want you to see the pop-up. Context, HTTP context. This is the request and the response. The context encapsulates both of those things.
Okay.
So when a call comes in, we can look at the HTTP context and see the request. And then when we want to write something out, we can write it to that context as well. So if you say context dot, what do we have hanging off of it?
So dot, let's see what's in there.
Connection, authentication.
We have a couple of
request. Might be, yeah, you go response. Let's go and say response.
Okay, so I can do RM. Oh, I was getting too fancy.
Yeah, no, you're getting the right idea though. Response with an S.
There we go.
All right, and then dot, and then write. Do we have a write or a write async?
Async.
All right, writes that out to the body. So then there's where you put your hello world string.
Okay, so it will fit comfortably in here.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, in there, not outside of there.
It's all good.
Hello world.
All right, so let's see if that compiles.
So I'm going to go ahead, Control S.
Control Shift B or Control Command B.
Control Command B.
And we might want to come up with an even better way to have this happen on a regular basis, because like right now you'll notice that you're saving and then you have to think about building.
Yeah. So
we'll come up with a way for that in a minute. So let's see if you can go ahead and drop out to the terminal and run this.
Okay, let's go back to the terminal. So we're in the same folder. No,
are we?
No.
Why don't you switch back and go ahead and do the Control tilde.
Okay.
Switch back into Visual Studio Code.
And then
bring up your terminal. Yep, you were in the same folder.
Oh, it's in the same folder.
So go ahead and .NET restore just for good measure, although I don't think we need to.
Because we haven't added anything.
I don't think we added anything.
Okay.
You're right. Yeah, we didn't anything. It'll just say nothing.
Okay.
See, look, it actually says log file has not changed. It's mocking me. All right, let's say .NET run.
Okay.
All right, look at that. Hosting environment production, listening on localhost 5000. So let's see what localhost 5000 says.
All right. Let's go with that. And let's make this a little bit bigger so people can see it.
And there it is. It works just fine. Do me a favor and switch back and see if it output anything into the logging window there.
Over
there you
here.
Go. Yep. Nothing interesting happened. We haven't put up any logging or any diagnostics, but that works.
It works.
All right. So that is .NET Core. We went on a Ubuntu machine. We installed it entirely from scratch.
Yeah.
We did Hello World. We talked about how to get that. And then we switched over to a Mac.
Switch over to a Mac. We noticed that it doesn't change that much. And then we also changed our console app into a web app. So we say Hello World in the console, Hello World in the web.
We'll take a short break, and we'll come back, and we'll try to do something more than just Hello World.
Okay.